This is KBTX News.
Well, Texas A&M is officially 4-0 for the first time since 2016 with a 16-10 win against the Auburn Tigers. Let's take things over to Aggie head coach Mike Elko.
Does anybody want to ask a question about us being 4-0 for the first time since 2016, or how did the defense bounce back, or how about you held them to 176 yards on offense and you had 5 sacks and they were 0 for 12 on third down and 0 for 2 on fourth down and you got the return game going again? I don't mean to sound like someone else, but my gosh, will you guys stop being so dreadful and gloomy?
What's going on, everyone? This is the Aggie Game Day Extra podcast. I'm senior Texas A&M sports writer Travis Brown from KBTX, alongside...
Are you an exhausted rancher?
Yes, I'm just exhausted.
Exhausted, for sure.
Maybe... I'm a jolly rancher, Maxwell.
Okay.
This is Max Crawford over here, chief meteorologist over here at KBTX.
Blue raspberry? Watermelon.
No, cherry. Cherry or grape?
Cherry raspberry.
No, cherry or grape.
Cherry Jolly Rancher.
Yeah, cherry Jolly Rancher. Or grape Jolly Rancher.
I don't know that I know what a cherry Jolly Rancher tastes like. I know the watermelon, I know blue raspberry, no grape, no green apple.
You know, Jolly Rancher had the suckers too.
Oh, okay.
The cherry Jolly Rancher suckers are amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was always a blue raspberry guy.
Yeah.
That may shock you.
The other day, our own Erin Patterson, I'll throw her under the bus, was about to go anchor the news. And our news director, Josh Gorbett here, has these 2 big vases full of candy.
Yeah, awesome.
And so she was just, gnawing down on something. I'm like, she was literally walking into the studio. I'm like, what are you eating? And she is kind of holding it like this, like a chipmunk. And she pulled it away, and it's a blue airhead. And I'm like, are you about to go on TV? And she's yeah. It's like, let me see your tongue. And she's like, it's this color right here. It's blue
as the sky.
And I said, have fun with that on the news. And
blue as the ocean.
I guess it worked out well for her. Yeah. So,
Erin's a good sport.
Erin is a good sport.
She's a good sport.
I didn't realize we have these lovely little KBTX stress balls that Josh gave me that we like to chunk at each other.
Throwing at people in the newsroom.
I before we came in here, I saw you walking down the hall.
Yes,
and
you
reared
tried.
back, and I crow hopped and threw this at you.
And you missed.
And I missed.
Not only did you miss, you hit something else.
I did not hit someone else, but there was one of our production people, Shannon, was walking around the corner, and I threw it, whizzed it right by her head.
Oh, you didn't actually
No,
hit
I didn't hit her, but she got scared and dropped everything that she was carrying.
Dropped all the microphone batteries and equipment.
Yeah. So I have a whole drawer full of these.
Scared her half to death.
That when people annoy me in the newsroom, that I just chunk them at their head.
It's more Al Booster.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So,
how you doing? You doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing
This is
fine.
our second recording, by the way, of Aggie Game Day Extra podcast for this week. This is episode 57, part 2.
57.2.
Yes.
We had one yesterday. We had some technical. We went through a whole. It was a great 49-minute podcast.
Yeah.
We had Alex Egan in here talking about the new baby.
And we had as little BAS for me maybe on any podcast. Maybe one of the episodes last year when we were really coming
after
into that.
LSU.
Yeah, I probably would have been a little more Kool-Aid-y that week than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
I think I might tone it down a little bit, but not much.
Yeah.
I still feel just as good.
You were pretty excited. We had
feel
Alex
pretty
in
good.
here.
Yeah.
We had some great football talk.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to hear any of that. What you're going to get is what you hear after this.
Hear about Jolly Ranchers
and blue footballs.
Yes.
So let's get right into some of the headlines from this week that you can catch over there on KBTX.com. Let's start out with the fact that, Mike Elko's talked about this, and he actually kind of, I don't think there's any question if it was real or not, but he talked about it again on his radio show last night on Wednesday, that it is a thing, that there was a lot of penalties. There was 13 penalties for 119 yards against Auburn, and that caused some issues. That's one reason why it was 16-10 and not a lot more in favor of the Aggies.
Right.
And so Mike Elko said that one of the things he's come up with to try to kind of nip this in the bud is to institute the Coaches Cabo Fund, that anytime a player commits a penalty, they'll have to maybe donate some of that NIL rev share money into the pot that can go to the Coaches Cabo Fund. As I wrote, a lot of the penalties might have had the coaches wishing that they were on some beach somewhere.
Yeah.
Now this might actually get them to dip their toes in the sand.
I'll help crowdsource. Well, I don't have to. The players will. Surely they like Trooper Taylor or TJE to go on a nice Cabo trip on their dime. Right?
Sure,
They would love that.
Someone asked the question of Mike Elko at his radio show if this is going to fund his wife's vacation, and he said, no, I'm going to pay. My wife deserves a vacation. I'm going to pay for her vacation, but this might get some of the other coaches out there and doing. He said actually he would prefer if there was no money in the fund, and then coaches just can take their wives on vacation on their own dime.
Yeah,
but penalties were a problem. You were texting during the game on Saturday. You were kind of in the same line as me, as like this is not good.
No.
As you've kind of come a couple days off and looked at it, do you still feel as strongly about the penalty situation in that game?
I probably not. It's just like every emotional come down after any Aggie victory or defeat. It is a problem, obviously. I mean, we almost had as many penalty yards as they had total yards, maybe passing yards, something like that. And if not for a couple of crucial ones, which were honestly kind of one of the more forgivable ones, like we would have, like you said, we would have scored, I think, at least 2 more touchdowns. At the very least, a touchdown
literally got called
a touchdown,
back,
right? So I think at the very least, we're talking a touchdown and a field goal. So I mean, that's a 10-point difference because of procedural penalties and the pre and post snap stuff. Maybe it was just because in the moment it was bothering me a lot because there's part of this team that kind of reminds me of the 2020 A&M team. And bear with me here for a second. And that I felt like a lot of games that we went through the season, and looking back, I should have just appreciated it for what it was worth. But there were a lot of games where we felt like we should be putting teams away and we just couldn't. But we would still win. And so that frustration feels familiar to me because watching that game, I could tell there was a better team on the field. But the scoreboard was not reflecting it. And I think without a shadow of a doubt, you can say the reason that is because of stupid penalties. And everybody knows it. And I think it was a reasonable question that one Travis L. Brown asked in the postgame presser. And that wasn't the question that set him on his rant, but that was the question prior to the rant. So I think it helped nudge him in that direction. But it's a legitimate question. What was it, 13 penalties?
13 penalties for 119 yards. It's the most penalty yards that they've had since 2013. They had like 169 against Louisiana Lafayette.
Yeah, and
that year, Louisiana Tech.
No, it was La Tech was 2012, so it would have had to have been Lafayette.
Okay.
But or Monroe. I don't know. Anyway, we only played La Tech in 12. But yeah, that's a legitimate question. It's something that obviously has to be fixed. And in the other recording, in the original, the OG episode 57,
the director's cut,
Alex Egan brought up a good point that he stole from you about how some of those high penalty games, all of those are wins for whatever reason.
Since Elko has taken over in the last 2 years, there's been 3 games with 10 or more penalties. Yeah. A&M has won all of them. Florida, Notre Dame, and Auburn.
We have won all of them. And part of that was because a lot of those penalties in the Florida game came in the second half when we were already up by a lot. And then we got a very fortunate pick 6. And so you start to dissect them and you go, okay, well, that was because this and that was because that. I think the penalties are frustrating for sure. But even after the game, to me, I wasn't frustrated with how close the game was. Oh, well, I was a little frustrated about that. But I think more than I was frustrated, I breathed a sigh of relief. I thought this was a desperate team that came in that had to win a game, and they didn't. And we shut them the heck down on defense.
Yeah.
And they did not convert a single third or fourth down. And if you do that against Nicholls State, that's impressive. If we'd have done that against Utah State or certainly UTSA earlier this season, I would still be talking about it. Like, Auburn is a struggling offense, no doubt. They don't really know their identity on offense, but there's a lot of talent on the field when the offense is on there. And for us to have held them despite the penalties, despite the poor field positioning for a lot of the game, is insane to me.
I get Mike Elko's rant. And for those of you who don't know,
sure.
There was a couple of questions at the beginning about penalties, about the Marcel Reed interception, but a couple about penalties early on. And he said he was tired about hearing about, the negatives of the game. They went out and won a game. They're 4-0 for the first time since 2016. Yeah. The questions need to reflect that. I get it, because when you look at that game, beyond just the fact that they're 4-0 for the first time since 2016, if you look at the game, it was the most complete game on both sides of the ball that A&M has played in a really long time.
Agreed.
If you look at the offense, it's over 414 yards. I know that because it was 207 rushing and 207 passing, exactly evenly balanced.
As everything should be.
Exactly. The defense, they pitched a shutout on third down, 0 for 13. Only the second time that Elko's done that in his career. Went through looking at that. The other one was against NC State in the Gator Bowl in 2018.
And NC State in 18, and you also mentioned, he thought maybe they did it against Ole Miss that same year.
That was one.
But they converted once.
Yeah.
And only lost by 14.
Right, which is still impressive. Yeah. The defense goes and holds a pretty good offense to right around 200 yards of total offense. Like, it was a complete game. 5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss.
Five and then like a handful of TFLs.
Right, and so like, complete game all around. It should have been 30-3.
Yeah, probably should have been.
And because really their one touchdown was a defensive score. They intercepted it, took it down to the one.
For all intents and purposes, yeah, absolutely.
And so I get it. Like, that was a complete game, but you can play all the complete games you want, and if you have 13 penalties for 119 yards, that can lose you a game you're supposed to win.
Yeah.
And if they continue to do it, the other thing that the reason why it's worth asking and it's important is it's the second game in the row that they've had 13 penalties.
Yeah.
Or more than 10. I think it was 13. I know it was more than 10 against Notre Dame. And so if you keep up that trend of having more than 10 penalties in a game that's going to cost you yards, eventually somewhere down the line, it's going to catch up with you.
I think this is going to be the point that we look back on and say either they got better at that as the season went on, or this is where we should have known who they are as a team, right? I don't want to get into this too much because this probably doesn't deserve a whole lot of daylight. But I do think there is something to be said about us having traveled to Notre Dame in that environment in a night game. And so there was probably going to be some pre-snap uneasiness and false starts and things like that. Was there some home cooking? I don't know. Maybe. But we also, I think, need to acknowledge the fact that Auburn was also just in a very shakily called SEC officiating game. Does that translate at all to the product on the field and how the game was called last Saturday? I will just let everybody else be the judge of that. But I think it kind of did. I think there were a couple of calls that were a little bit ticky-tacky. Looking back on film, especially when you have the yellow line.
Did you review the film?
No,
Max, did
no.
you?
I look at a couple of
always go have to stay
I look at a
film.
couple of no huddles. I mean, gosh, Woodland's Aggie on YouTube. If you know, you know. But Armaj Reed Adams was pretty clearly beyond the line of scrimmage, but he was not involved in the play, and it's kind of like a backside holding call.
We're talking about the touchdown that got negated for the ineligible receiver downfield.
A gorgeous pass on the run, hit him in stride. Holy moly, that was perfect. And I think a reason why I'm looking back on this game and going, whatever, we won, who cares, is because I saw plays like that.
Yeah, it was a complete game. It was a great game. It was a great game, other than the penalties.
Right, and maybe that's why I'm not so worried about it, because it seems that this team has the ability to respond in different ways that last year's team did not.
Last year's team, they would have lost that game.
I think so. I really do. Last year our offense kind of lived and died on Le'Veon and catching people off guard with the occasional Marcel run. We have kind of proven that we can do more than just that. And so that's the test that we present to every defense ahead of us that I think, unfortunately, Texas is most equipped to meet head on. Is how are you going to defend against this offensive concept? There were a couple of times during that game where I said, Colin Klein, what are you doing? But I still think I'm Colin Klein's biggest fan.
Let's put a pin in that.
Okay.
Because I think that's some good conversation
Sure.
we'll have in the matchup. Let's look a little bit more, a few of these more headlines. Scooby Williams, when we made this graphic and did version 1.0, he was day-to-day.
Right, and now he's
according-
listed
now
as
he's questionable.
Right.
But the other interesting thing, Bryce Anderson listed as
Also questionable.
as well. He moves up from out after having that head injury. I'm going to skip, if you're watching this, I'm going to go down to Aggie Soccer loses Taylor Jernigan. She was like the third, I believe, leading scorer on the team. It's an A&M team that ranks almost last in putting shots on net and scoring chances.
Big game tonight, by the way.
Yeah, against Texas.
At Ellis Field. I really hope they pack that field. I think they might.
Yeah.
I think the 12th man will show up. I hope they do.
They just got to find a way to get the ball on frame.
Yeah.
That's been the biggest thing. Now, Texas is coming off. They had a 4-game losing streak, too, coming into this game. So that's going to be an exciting one out there at Ellis. A&M volleyball wins last night again. Continue the run through SEC play. Maddie Walksetter leads the nation in assists per set, which is a great overall team stat because not only is she passing the ball well, but she's gotten players who are finishing it and finishing it at a high clip, so they keep rolling on. Let's real quick talk a little bit about this Rashawn Agee thing. He wins his court injunction for eligibility. Convoluted situation where Texas A&M new head coach Bucky McMillan gets a transfer from USC. Rashawn Agee, a forward. His first season was non-qualifier academically going into New Mexico State. They kind of tried to devise this plan where he would take some classes at a junior college, still be able to be eligible to play. Not only did not pan out, but before the season even started, he hurt his knee, so he ended up just kind of being at that junior college. They tried to get a waiver through the NCAA. It appears that did not get granted, so they immediately on last Friday went to the Brazos County Courthouse, filed an order for injunction or for a restraining order against the NCAA, and got an injunction with in 4 hours, which is kind of unheard of, to be able to make him be eligible. So right now he is eligible to play. It's the Diego Pavia rule, where Diego Pavia, the quarterback from Vanderbilt, had a JUCO season. He said that shouldn't count against NCAA eligibility, and they ruled in his favor. That's why he's playing this year. Same ruling. They have a court case on October 9th that will be to kind of sort out this temporary injunction to see if they want to make it stand. But by all in cases, because of the Pavia thing, it looks like this is something that will be ruled in his favor. So as of now, eligible to play. That season starts in late October. We'll see how it all goes.
Right. Well, yeah, we'll see. But one would assume he's probably going to be able to play.
One would assume, yeah. It seems like that's the case.
Over 40 years ago, my parents started C&J Barbecue, and today we continue to honor Dad's legacy with the best barbecue in the Brazos Valley. With locations on Harvey Road, Southwest Parkway, and our newest location on William J. Bryan, we carry on our family tradition of serving up award-winning barbecue, sides, and desserts. We also offer delivery, catering, as well as custom menus and private chef services. Come visit us today for some of the best barbecue around. C&J Barbecue. The C is for Chip, the J is for Joe, and the barbecue is for you.
Well, let's go ahead and take a step into the matchup this week. Texas A&M takes on Mississippi State. They're pair of 4-win teams. Mississippi State has that one loss in overtime to Tennessee last week. The Bulldogs. I was talking, and we could talk about that. Well, first off, game Saturday, 6:30 p.m., under the lights. It's Operation Blackout. There is black uniforms all around. It's in Kyle Field. It'll be on the SEC Network. Texas A&M is ranked number 6.
Tom Hart, Cole Kubelik, and Jordan Rogers on the call, I believe.
It's good.
I love that crew. I think they're great, especially when we're winning.
Yeah.
A lot of Aggies don't specifically like Tom Hart, and I think a lot of people don't like Tom Hart because he's critical of every team
I
but
like
think
Tom Hart.
I think they're a great crew.
They work great.
Yeah.
I think I like Tom Hart because, and this is self-serving, but there's a lot of TV crews that the SIDs for the schools will give them a packet of clippings and stuff that have been written about the teams. They can read and get storylines, and a lot of times they'll just spout those off as if they are their knowledge. Well, Tom Hart will usually give credit to whoever wrote the story, did the reporting.
All three of them are pros.
So I like Tom Hart for that reason. This matchup is interesting, and I think we were maybe talking about this yesterday off camera of like, I don't know if this is a Mississippi State team that isn't great but they're overachieving, or if this is actually an improved Mississippi State team. I lean towards it's a Mississippi State team that is overachieving. But I think they have a good quarterback. The defense is improved. I didn't see it coming all together this way.
Oh, I definitely didn't either. I mean, I think so many people just looked at their matchup against Mississippi State a month ago and said, yeah, that's a W. And to be clear, I still think that it is for us. I'm very grateful that it's at home, as I am every time when we play Mississippi State. I am much more confident in that game whenever we played at home because I flippin' hate going to Starkville to play them because something weird always seems to happen. And for the past 10 years, that's largely been because of one guy. And some people will be like, yeah, Mike Leach. I mean, okay, yes, absolutely. But Nick Fitzgerald, the Fitz gave me fits. I threw a fit because of Fitz.
Did you have a Fitz in a tantrum?
Yeah, that's a great band. Yeah, they're wonderful. Yeah. But I think it is a team that is overachieving. But I think that the credit there goes to Chapin and it goes to Lebby. I think that what you're seeing with their record is a team that is actively improving. And I think what you saw with what they did against Tennessee, that was kind of a funky game. There were some turnovers that Aguilar made that made it closer than maybe it probably should have been, but it went to overtime and it was close. So despite all of that, and maybe it's because of the Aggie performance as well over the past couple of games, I just don't see this. I see it being competitive, and I see it being competitive for a while, but I don't see the final score being as close as the past couple of weeks for the Aggies. And I will real quickly, I will also say, I have been nervous about this game every single year since probably 2014 or 15. I don't recall having been this even keel about going into Mississippi State than when Johnny was here. Maybe 2016 when we were rocking and rolling and before we knew that Trevor Knight was going to get hurt that game. But I feel pretty good. I feel pretty darn good about it.
And that's the most infamous Mississippi State, because it was number 4 in the first college football playoff rankings that season. They were 6-0 to start the season, and then Trevor Knight gets hurt, and Jake Hubenek got hurt in that game as well. And he ended up having to kind of to tough it out. He's talked to us a lot about both of them, but AC, the same injury, AC joint for both of them. Well, the thing that is really going to dictate a lot of this game, I think, especially, is the injury situation for Mississippi State. We talked about A&M's injury situation with Scooby Williams and Bryce Anderson, but Damian Samford and Marcus Ratcliffe have filled in really nicely for those two guys in the game. So there hasn't really been any kind of drop-off there. There's 3 players that are listed as questionable or probable for Mississippi State that could have a big impact on the game. Safety Isaac Smith is their leading tackler. He was their best defender last season. It still is probably their best defender on the field this season. He's listed as questionable. He left the game against Tennessee early. Offensive lineman Albert Reese is questionable as well. He's their starting right tackle. And one of the better players on their offensive line. And then the big one is wide receiver Brennan Thompson. He's listed as probable. He's their leading receiver. He's the one that had the late touchdown catch against Arizona State to win that game. It seems like all indications are that he is going to be able to play. But if he doesn't play, if all 3 of those guys don't play, I mean, that is some of the biggest players on their team wouldn't be able to go.
And isn't there another offensive lineman that is certainly out?
Yeah, I believe it's Blake Steen was injured early in the year and is out for the year. So they have a couple other guys, Darian Gillette, who's listed as probable, who still has, I think, like about 10 tackles on the season. And Will Whitson, a defensive lineman, is out, who had some production and some snaps early on. So they are much more banged up than A&M is, and banged up in some pretty serious ways. I mean, it would be like if both Craver and Concepcion were out, and Torian York or Cassius Howell or something. Like, they have some serious injuries there. But that being said, if Thompson's able to go, you have a good quarterback in Blake Shapen, like we said. It is Jeff Lebby is out of the Art Briles coaching tree, so think Baylor in the 2010s to 2015s, that really spread offense. It's a little bit modernized with the RPO, so they're going to run a lot of that kind of modern day triple option, is what Mike Elko has liked to say about it. And it's going to be a new and different challenge. I know somebody asked on the Monday press conference, they have a good running back, if this is going to be a little bit like Notre Dame, and he said the system is just so different too, but there is some good running power back there. I think it's going to be a different test for this defense, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be any more difficult than Notre Dame or Auburn was in that sense.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I like the way that the schedule is kind of set up this year, because we got to, from the G5 ranks, but with dudes all over the field, especially on offense, that could be in the P4 from UTSA. And we got, obviously, the dynamic duo of Price and Love from Notre Dame. And then we got Auburn, which just has talent. You know, the offensive line notwithstanding, we've had some pretty decent tests, and I think this is another decent test. Like you said, that's a little different than all the teams we played so far, but I think this also can give us maybe a good indicator of how maybe we'll do against Missouri's offense. Like, you know, that spread, very heavy on the RPO, but still establishing the run type of deal. And while it is different and not an offense that we have seen this year, I like our chances. The defense is continually getting better and better, and I mean, it would be hard to improve upon the performance from last week, so I do think that they're going to get some chunk plays. I think they're probably going to score a couple of touchdowns, but yeah, I like our matchup on both sides of the ball. I really do. You know, the defense is allowing, the Mississippi State's defense, that is allowing some pretty big chunk plays and yardage. And if their offensive line is shook up and our defense continues to get to the passer, I think that's going to be the key, is trying to make them one-dimensional, and limiting Shapen's big throw plays. That's where I do think that we have the propensity a little bit to maybe get busted once or twice. But I like our chances against this team. It is also, I do think, very worth mentioning that this is really their first true road game of the year. Mm-hmm. They went to Southern Miss and I think barely beat them. I could be wrong. Maybe it might have not been all that close, but I think it was closer than it should have been. And, you know, they've been at Davis Wade ever since. And so it is going to be a test that, you know, Shapen's a very
34-17 Southern Miss.
Okay. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Shapen is a seasoned quarterback. So, I mean, this is not going to be his first time going into a hostile environment, but I think the crowd is going to play a factor here.
They allowed 6 sacks against Tennessee.
Right.
It's going to be similar to the kind of offensive line and pass protection probably that we saw against Auburn, because that was another team that ranked pretty bad in pass pro. Mississippi State ranks 90th in sacks allowed, averaging 2.2 a game. Auburn was like 130th.
Yeah,
they were after that 9 sack.
They're better in certain metrics for sure.
Mm-hmm. But I agree. I think getting to Shapen, affecting him that way, is going to be a big part of the game plan. Offensively is interesting because you can talk about the chess match within the game, where what one coach is going to do and how they're going to stop one thing or look at another thing. But then there's the chess match that is the whole season, because everybody gets film on everybody. And you'll be able to see what a team has put on film in weeks past. Well, what A&M has put on film in weeks past is a UTSA game and a Utah State game, and for the most part a Notre Dame game that the pass game carried them to victory. and did it at a clip that's some of the best in the nation. And then they came back to this Auburn game where Auburn decided to bracket Craver and Concepcion and keep an eye on the perimeter. And it was Le'Veon Moss and Reuben Owens that were able to carry the offense on their back through their legs up the middle with less people in the box. Well, now A&M has proven that they can beat you with Marcel Reed's arm and their speed on the outside. They can beat you with the stable of running backs if you give them the middle of the field. Now, if you're a defensive coordinator, I don't necessarily know which one. I mean, it probably naturally leans more towards defend the box and make A&M beat you with the pass because that's a little bit less high percentage. But they've proven they can do that against some really good teams already.
I think that's, but then that's hard because you were also looking at a game where both Levy and Reuben had probably their best games of the year, the year previous, and against a good Auburn defense. And we can talk about DJ Durkin. I don't know that I necessarily miss him being on our staff, but I sure don't like playing against him because I think he calls a really good, albeit funky, defense, especially when you get in the red zone. And he gave us fits in the red zone. So that was a good defense that we ran up a bunch of yards on. And I don't know that Mississippi State has the horses or the scheme to keep up with all of the different angles that we can attack them from. One thing that I am just blatantly stealing from an ESPN article about kind of their top QBs so far of the year is that Marcel's overall efficiency in the zone specifically, he ranks 14th in QBR. And then it starts to come down quite a bit when you're talking about just man coverage. And one of my buddies in the text groups who really knows ball was kind of pointing out that like in the short and intermediate throws against Auburn, that was probably where we struggled the most. And some of that, I think KC had a drop that he doesn't drop 99 times out of 100, kind of late in the game where that could have maybe made it to where we didn't need that extra defensive stop. And then obviously the throw that Marcel had where he kind of zipped it over Terry Bussey's head and it was a tip and all that. And so that might be skewed a little bit.
I don't give, just for put a underline under that, I don't give Marcel a whole lot of fault for that. He got it to where on his hands where he could get it. Yeah. It was a short pass. That should have been, if anything, if he thinks it's high enough that he can't get it, he needs to knock it down, not tip it up.
And so I think this is more philosophically and not scheme, because I'm not going to sit here and try to tell y'all that I know how to scheme a defense. But I do think that you're going to try to limit the big plays and then kind of dare Marcel to throw the big ones. And so I think I would expect a lot of man coverage and maybe one safety deep and say, okay, try to throw this. And so a lot of crowding the receivers and things like that, which again, Craver and KC both have proven that they can handle that just fine. But I think that's your best bet is you try to make Marcel a little nervous, give him a little bit, or don't give him any cushion, and hopefully he's mistake prone to start the game. He's a little bit jacked up, which he's kind of shown that he has the tendency to do at the very beginning of games before he kind of settles down. You want to try to maximize A&M's mistakes at the beginning and see if you can get a couple of good scripted offensive drives and go up early. I mean, which is exactly what the game plan was against Arizona State, right? And then Arizona State kind of came roaring back. But if I'm Mississippi State, that's exactly what I'm trying to do this game too. I'm trying to maybe get ahead early and hope that A&M's offense can kind of make some mistakes and then just hold on for dear life essentially in the second half.
And if I'm Colin Klein and I see that they're stacking the box and trying to play man on the outside, the UTSA game plan comes right back roaring in, where you have a lot of those short screens, a lot of because if you can get the kind of wide receiver blocking that they got against UTSA,
play on the aggressiveness,
that bubble screen game will be huge for them, and I think that they can really take it. I just don't, unless the penalties rear their ugly head again, I don't see a way that if A&M continues to play like they've been playing, that they lose this game. It would have to be some kind of huge fallback in some aspect of the team, which we didn't even mention special teams. And special teams,
Yeah.
while they were really, really good early in the year. I gave them A+ at the beginning of the year in my game rundowns. The last couple of games have been a little iffy. You have the block punt against Notre Dame. You have a couple of shanks from Tyler White. You have. I'm not going to give Randy Bond too much guff on some of those field because
I'll give him a B+.
most of them were about 50 yards or greater. But the inside 50 yards, inside 49 yards, he's been pretty much nails.
Yeah.
And so, but they haven't gotten that big return push like they've had early. That the special teams has lost some steam. That could be a place that affects them if they don't get that squared away. But I don't know. I see this as like I think A&M takes care of business. I see it as probably a 34-21 or 34-17 kind of game.
Yeah, I think A&M gets 40, barely. So I've got like a 41-17 or a 41-20 type of game.
Yeah,
and it's for all the reasons that I said before. I do think that it's going to be a frustrating start to the game. I think that they're going to have scripted a couple of good offensive drives that, that's just kind of the way you expect an Elko offense to go out is like at first you're just kind of getting a feel for how things are going and then you make adjustments and then you lock down in the second half. So I could see us at the end of the first quarter, like maybe being down 7-10 or something like that, or like being tied 10-10. And throughout the game, we just kind of wear them out and utilize the home field advantage and lean on Le'Veon or Ruben or Amari Daniels or whoever it is. So I think it's got the potential to be a frustrating start. In fact, case in point, the last time they came to Kyle Field in 2023, which happened to be Jimbo's last game, but the very first play not from scrimmage, the kickoff return for a touchdown that thought, okay, well, here we go again, and we ended up hanging 50 on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so
that was the Jalen Henderson debut.
Yeah. And so obviously dramatically different teams on both ends, but I can kind of see it going that way is like everybody's a little too jacked up and maybe a little bit caught up in the moment of the blackout and stuff like that. And just really, really juiced and jazzed and just maybe a couple mistakes that we would like to not make early on. But then we buckle down and make this game not super
I agree.
close.
I feel like I need to actually lock in on a score. I'm going to say 31 17. 31-17.
I'm gonna go 41-20.
Okay.
I do think they.
You kind of prices right $1 me there a little bit.
I sure did. I'm a little more confident in our offense though, I guess. But I think they will score a touchdown or two.
I'm not unconfident. I'm not confident in A&M's offense. I think they're going to have to do a little bit more in the run game and the short passing game. That's probably going to eat some time off the clock. But I think that the offense is still going to look pretty impressive in this.
If you go down like by position groups against position groups, really I don't really find an advantage there except maybe just I think I'm giving Shapen a lot of credit for what he can do. And also, I'm giving Mississippi State's running game credit for where I'm maybe not giving our run defense enough credit. And so those are the two areas that I'm kind of like, well, I don't know. Maybe they could make some headway there.
It's a one game. It is a 1 game sample size against being a really good run defense.
Yeah, that is true. But I think between this being their first true road matchup, them coming off of an absolute thriller loss, I see them coming in here and us taking care of business. And if I recall, I think the game opened at like 12.5 points and now it's up to like 15.
Yeah, that was the other thing is they must know something about Vegas must know something about
injury status.
The injury status because it's just continued to drop as the week has gone on.
Yeah.
And
so I like and this is where
and this is what everyone is going to get to experience this week as well, since it is a night game.
Yeah, maybe at the beginning of the game too. Maybe we'll get a little LED action. I'm trying to think. 6:30 is the kick, so it'll probably be like 6:40 or so. I think it'll be dark enough by that point. Sunset's at like 7:15. So just about all the stadium will be in the shade. In fact, I think all of us will be. So, yeah, it's going to be a flipping good time. Well, I don't see the 12th man losing this one. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like even if somehow we go into the fourth quarter and it's a lot closer than we thought it was going to be, if we can show up on defense against Auburn, even though Mississippi State's a better offense, I think we can do that against Mississippi State.
Yeah, I think. Well, and since you've given your prediction, what's the weather forecast looking like?
It's going to be hot. Well, we're tailgating, right? And everybody's wearing black too. So just mind that it is going to be quite hot during the day, but it will cool down very nicely. You're not going to need a jacket by any means, but it'll be perfectly comfortable once the game starts.
Yep.
It'll be great.
Yep.
It'll be great Saturday football. Don't ask me right now about the Florida game because that weekend could be interesting. But
interesting. I don't like interesting, Max.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't like interesting.
I don't either.
I also don't know why you sat on that stool and I sat in this chair because I needed the height and you should have sat in this as I'm slowly sinking into the graphics.
Yeah. We need to do the fast motion and see how much you've sunk throughout the video.
Let's go ahead and wrap this up with around the SEC. Florida, we already knew when we created this, and shout out to Alex Egan. He got to pat himself on the back in the 1.0 version of this, saying that this was his idea for the Around the SEC segment. This week, it's 7 arrested for stealing $800,000 of smoke detectors from Home Depot.
The first time you told me this, I thought you had a zero off. I was like, 80,000, but like almost $1 million worth of smoke detectors.
What do you do with $800,000 of smoke detectors?
I don't truly know. Maybe you just hop on Facebook Marketplace and you just start selling them, but maybe it's a long play, like you just kind of do it over the course of several years and sell. I mean, I will be real with you though. Smoke alarms are expensive, and if one goes out, a lot of people will just buy a replacement for all of them in your house, and so you're talking like a half dozen smoke detectors.
You're saying they're like $50 a pop? Is that what you're? I didn't realize
that. I had to do that. My house is about 10 years old, and a couple of them were crapping out, even if you put new batteries in them and stuff like that. So I had to get all new smoke detectors. I only bought 3, and I was like, golly, I'm out almost $200. So maybe that's what they were thinking there, or maybe somebody.
But who buys a black market smoke detector?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess you're gonna sell them on eBay. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if that's when you get handy, like on Facebook Marketplace, and you're just like, I bought too many of these. I bought way too many of these.
I bought a warehouse full of stuff, and they found the stolen contraband. In a warehouse in Houston.
Well,
so local ties,
right? Florida man made it all the way to Houston.
Florida man made it all the way to Houston.
I don't know if there's a long play with that. You just be like, the next time I need $50 for gambling or drug money or something, like I'll sell a smoke detector. I don't know. I truly don't know. Maybe they don't know.
What at Home Depot, if you could steal a bunch of, would you steal from Home Depot?
If I could steal a bunch of them?
Well, or anything. Like, what would be your prime target right now at Home Depot? I was going to say the first couple of things that I would think of is like the smaller devices. Because like a Ring camera?
Yeah, because like Lowe's and Home Depot are kind of in on the Rings and the Nests, and even like some of the smart home things that you can just all kind of buy there. That's probably the first thing that I would think steal.
We've recently...
I haven't, believe it or not, I have not thought about this. Perhaps some expensive gardening stuff?
Yeah.
Maybe some really fancy trees?
Well, so you're kind of onto my point of... We just recently remodeled our back patio, and
you need a smoke detector. Have I got a deal for you?
Yeah, exactly. You got 800,000 of them, or I think we did the math. It's like 16,000 if it's like $50 a pop. Patio furniture, patio accoutrement is expensive.
Yes,
like
it is.
Furniture, like your grilling accessories.
Can I be real? You should have waited until November.
Yeah.
Because it gets a lot cheaper there.
Well, there was already, it was in August.
Or moral of this story, you could just steal it.
It was in August, and because most of the Lowe's...
Our news director is listening in on the live recording of this, and he texted me and said, don't make Travis incriminate yourself. You would not steal anything. I wouldn't. I have
sure?
never shoplifted.
I don't think I have either.
Not once.
I think, well, no. When I was like 4, I think I took one... butterscotch candy in my pocket.
Absolutely egregious that you.
And then I think I took it back.
Now that I think about it, I'm sure there was a time or two where I asked for a water cup and I poured some Sprite. I'm sure that has
Okay.
happened at some point.
Okay.
Not that I can recall. Certainly not in my adult life.
Okay.
All right?
Is it stealing?
Everybody okay?
Is it stealing if you go to the Mexican food restaurant and
Yes.
only order a glass of water, but you eat the chips and salsa?
No, that's not stealing.
Okay.
Do you put a couple dollar bills down if
Well,
you
I don't drink enough water to do that. I would still get a Coke.
Oh,
so it wouldn't
okay.
matter.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say if you do that, like I don't know. Well, in college we had people do that at Chewy's all the time back when they had that
The happy hour.
and that was insane. And so
Yeah.
you just go and make essentially a whole nacho platter, and you'd get a water, and you'd have unlimited chips, and we would do that all the time. But at least the groups that I were with, like we would make sure we would throw a couple of dollar bills on the table after the fact, because yeah, you could back in the day, you could go to Chewy's and get like an actual, not just chips and salsa, but like you could get some protein and other stuff for absolutely free. And that's obviously why they don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you gotta throw down a buck or two.
That's fair. Well, before we get HR in here to kick us off the premises, we should probably go ahead and wrap this up.
Okay.
Thanks everyone for listening to part 2, or version 2 of this.
Wait, which version
thanks
one
for,
you're never going to see
well,
here.
Yeah,
But trust us, it happened.
It's the Zack Snyder cut. We'll release it well after the original goes, and then you won't be able to really hear anything because the audio was terrible on it. So stay tuned for that. Be sure to check this guy on the 5, 6, and 10 leading up to the big weekend this weekend. Check KBTX.com as we'll get you geared up for that big matchup with Mississippi State. So for Max Crawford, Alex Egan, who was on one version of this, and this I'll go in there, and myself. This is the Aggie Game Day Extra podcast, and we'll see you next week.